Hello and welcome to another episode, or the first episode of 2023 for Sports with Monga. I know I've been on a break for the last 2 months, but I'm hoping to be back more regularly and starting off with the first video for 2023. It's the FA Cup tie yesterday, played by Manchester City versus Arsenal. A good game, a very interesting game. Could have been poised by anybody to win. Almost felt like a moment of brilliance, a moment of lapse of concentration could end this game pretty quickly. But then I guess both of the teams were pretty well prepared for each other, and the intensity on the game was pretty heavy to know and to see as well. Of course, it almost sometimes felt very boring because the game was kind of moving, like it was almost like box to box sometimes with the new signing Lisandro Trossard for Arsenal, kind of trying to get the goal, but Ortega doing pretty well both occasions, trying to save with the save that he made with in the first half as well, and the second. But Tomiyasu's shot in the first half as well being saved pretty well by Ortega. A pretty clean lineup, a very changed lineup as well. I think Foden was being missed. Foden was missed, definitely being missed by Manchester City. They could have done some more damage if they had Foden, but then, they had a pretty solid lineup. Haaland starting, Gundogan, Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne, and Mahrez in the front, and Rodri and Rico Lewis. It's so amazing to see Rico Lewis kind of keep his place and not allow Kyle Walker and Cancelo to kind of get in the score again. And that's pretty interesting to say. In the defense, John Stones, Akanji, and Ake. The goal scorer eventually was pretty unlikely source. It was Ake with his side foot neatly just kind of placed in the bottom left corner, touching the goal, cutting the inside of the post and just trickling into goal. After a beautiful shot from Alvarez. Ortega starting as well. For Arsenal was pretty different as well. Like they had Turner playing, Ramsdale was on the bench, Tierney, Gabriel, Holding started, and Tomiyasu. Saliba was given the rest, but then he did come in the second half after Holding was given a yellow off holding Erling Haaland's shirt for a pretty long time. And there was a tussle all the way in the match between Haaland and Holding. With Haaland kind of coming off with flying colors there, and knowing that Haaland's structure and like the way he is built, it's pretty hard for any defender to kind of tame him. But then that was one of those Holdings demise there that got him a yellow card, and then he had to be subbed off, fearing a red. Fabio Vieira, Partey, and Saka for in the mid for Arsenal. They're pretty solid there, but then I think Partey could have felt a little. He didn't feel comfortable in the second half. So they had to sub him out, and that was the changing. I think that's what the moment the game changed completely for me. City were then able to kind of hold the ball more in the mid and kind of control the ball and the pace of the game better than before. And Oleksandr Trossard, he's just kind of fit right in. He's come from Brighton after a fallout with Zebre, and just kind of coming in and just started to play really, really well. That's pretty interesting to see. And Ketia, he just kind of, Jesus is not being missed right now. That's what I feel. And Ketia just kind of come in perfectly well, slotted in. He knows what's expected out of him, how this team plays, and what he can bring to the squad, and he just plays it perfectly. There were a couple of chances. There was one beautiful chance, like with Trossard's cross, and he could have just kind of slotted it in. But those are signs when you tell the team is gelling in. And Martinelli was kind of on the bench, so it's pretty interesting. And Saka as well starting. All in all, I really like the way it went, but then I think, of course, the master shows who's boss. Pep Guardiola takes on his apprentice, an assistant coach from yesteryears from Manchester City, Mikel Arteta, who is now the head coach of Arsenal. But then the amazing part is Arsenal are top of the Premier League right now, and who's chasing them? You guessed that right, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. And it was one of those games that everybody was like curious to see, because these are the kind of games, the top top two games basically in a way, right? Like the top two from the Premier League playing against each other for another cup. City is already out from the Carabao. FA Cup holders are Arsenal, and that's what was interesting to see, like, if they will continue or not. But then that's what happened. I think Arsenal. I don't want to say Arsenal deliberately dropped out of this, but then I think Arsenal would be happy that they didn't lose with a heavy defeat, and they still caused a lot of problems for City to play around with them. That was very interesting to see. What's also interesting to right now to note is that there are chances of like some injuries around. Jon Snow's limped off. Partey limped off. He is scheduled for MRI today. And that was kind of something that was being talked about as well. Like, is this all, or there is more that can happen here? John Stones was immediately kind of replaced by from Laporte, and Partey, Lokonga came in at 46 minutes in the halftime. Saliba came in for holding. John Stones was subbed out. Laporte came in. What was pretty interesting as well to see is the substitutions that were made pretty late on for the games. Like Alvarez for Mahrez came in. Kyle Walker for Rico Williams, for Rico Lewis, Bernardo Silva came for Kevin De Bruyne as well. Some good substitutions made by Odegaard for Barcelona as well. Odegaard came in for Saka, Zinchenko came in from Tierney, and Martinelli came in for Oleksandr Trossard. All in all, a good game, but then the goal was pretty unassuming, and I would say Alvarez taking a shot from outside the box. It hit the bottom right corner, right post, trickled out, came to Grealish, who's tried to kind of find a composure to kind of shoot it, but then eventually ends up placing it for an unlikely source in the penalty box, Nathan Ake, who just kind of slides it in perfectly with an outstretched Turner. Turner was amazing in the goal the whole, but then this was completely, it was just kind of beautifully struck. So it was just kind of went in, like literally trickled into the goal. Very interesting game though, and a good goal for Ake and for City to kind of win this. They move on to the 5th round now. What's going to be interesting is City will now kind of focus on their attention to playing Tottenham in the Premier League. And Arsenal's kind of 7-match unbeaten run comes to an end in the FA Cup. Now they will travel to Everton to play in the Premier League. Arsenal are through to the 5th round, and Arsenal are out. Tomiyasu and Trossard could have kind of made the game very different if they had scored pretty early on, but then City kind of clawed their way back into the game and did what City generally does. It's interesting to see how this kind of mix and match is still kind of being talked about. Arteta is the coach that the Arsenal board and management has trusted. And he kept saying that you trust the process. You can see the results of the process now that they are being really, really good on the pitch and off the pitch. There are no kind of side stories. Everyone's talking about Arsenal and how they play, how exciting they are, and how everybody's kind of excited about to see this title race as well go down the end for the Premier League. But then it will be interesting now to see at FA Cup how this draws attention from the City group or the City players. The group of players in City, and because it's another champion, another kind of another club to kind of vie for and fight for, and they would definitely want to win it. But then it also adds up to like the pressure that they have from the Premier League, the Champions League, and now of course they're out of the Carabao Cup, but then they're still kind of playing for the FA Cup. So they're still in the race for 3 trophies. And that'll be very interesting to see how this goes. And who knows what the next draw holds? We still have Manchester United playing later today, and I'll be doing a match reaction for that. Do stay tuned in. I'm back with a new look, with a new video, and I'll try to be more consistent with this. thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And if you've not done that, do that. Press the a like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Catch you in the next one.